if you've listened to In the Arena podcast, you've heard Trey Willard speak. He's inspirational and he's motivational, and he has accomplished a lot of stuff in his career. And in this episode, we talk about how he uses goal setting not only to accomplish what he sets out to accomplish, but how he teaches his agents to exceed and excel and accomplish all the goals that they've set out to accomplish. So if you're interested in accomplishing goals and setting goals and on how you can become the best professional you can in 2026, tune into this episode with Trey Willard.
The credit belongs to the man who is in the arena. Dare greatly and build intentionally. Welcome to In the Arena Podcast.
Welcome to In the Arena Podcast. Today we've got Trey Willard for the third time, the second time you can watch it.
Third time's a charm.
Yes.
Do we have audio at least for the first time?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
I never heard it.
Hey, man.
Welcome to the show, Trey.
Thank you. Look, I never did hear that first
Yeah.
one. But I am incredibly happy to be back. Also, did shoot some. We shot some reels
content
here.
the other day.
Yeah, that was fun.
You're frequented Lettuce Media
Yeah, so it's like
Studios.
it feels like I've been here more than 3 times.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's been good. Well, I'm glad
yeah.
you're back. I think this is a perfect topic for you. I'm excited to hear where this conversation is going to go. If you just want to just build the profile and the foundation of who Trey Willard is, you've been a realtor for a long time. You were on a team. You left that team to start your own team, and that team has been thriving
I
ever
got some
since.
exciting news. Can I share this really quick?
Sure, let's roll. Let's
So
hear it.
2026, this is 2025 rankings. Real Trends, who is the verified ranking system for agents, sides, volume. So there's different categories. There's agents, there's small teams, large teams, mega teams, and now enterprise teams. So the W Group, #1 team, mega team in Louisiana, now for like the 5th or 6th consecutive time. Yeah. Hey, you want to hear what's really cool though? 39th in the United States.
What?
Mega teams and sides.
Yep.
All right, what do the kids do? Clock
Clock
it.
it. Clock it. So, and
You are so proving the point that we picked the right person for goal setting. You were like, let me tell you about this goal
Well,
we
hey,
accomplished.
look, 700 sides this year, right? And that's going to be $210 million, and we are on pace to do that
great.
now. So
I love it.
And I think that what I think you've done a great job of is building a culture around the people that you want on your team, right? You have this. All your agents have the same vibe. They have the same work ethic. Quality agents. You create the leverage that a team is supposed to offer, which is why do I join a team? For the leverage, the parts of the business that you need in order to go do your highest and best dollar producing activities, and you've put people in place and it's working. And I think and I think also part of it too is that you're still in the trenches with the agents. You're still producing and you're seeing the business. And I read a book called The Fish That Ate the Whale. If you haven't read the book, it's incredible.
All right.
It's
Love
about the banana man. He's from New Orleans. So like if you've lived in New Orleans any part of your life, they talk about all the streets, and it's very much like you can see it because we've lived there before. And then they talk about how this man who knew every aspect of his business, was in it all the time. He fixed a lot of the problems, but scaled it into be one of the biggest companies in the world at one point in time. And it was cool. But being in the trenches allows you to see what's going on and have the respect of your team and to pivot.
yeah, strategy, not theory.
For sure, 100%. And so I think that's something else that you do well, and I think that real estate agents and team leaders are starting to pick up on this, is that you help your agents build their own goals within the business that you've created.
Correct.
And the leverage and tools that they can use. And so I think that's why you're going to be a great person to talk about this, because you have your own goals and you have your own vision for your company, but you also help other people create their own perfect life within that.
That's right, man. As long as we're all rowing in the same direction.
For sure. Which
is, by the way, this is like my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. So, when we set out goals, we talk about them annually, we touch on them quarterly. We have monetary goals, but we believe also that you have to have a goal outside of just the monetary objective of what you're doing, right? Like you have to have a bigger purpose than that. And so from the W Group, before we kind of get into like numbers and stuff, like what is the real focus and goal of the W Group as an organization?
So it changes often.
Yeah.
Right. So when I started this, and I told my team today, it's like I did not seek out to build the #1 real estate team in Louisiana. Right. I wanted to build a place where agents could come, they could thrive. Right. We could help them remove limiting beliefs, raise their capacity, expose them to things they weren't exposed to. Right. Inevitably, I want you to leave better than you came. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like where all the vision started. And it started locally in Baton Rouge with a few people, and it was like I went to all the conferences, and I learned that in order to leverage, I've got to go hire more agents. Mm-hmm. I've got to hire better administrative support. I've got to go hire more agents. And then as we did that, the vision just continued to grow. And then there's, our partnership with Zillow has allowed us to expand in other markets. And then now we're organically expanding in other markets because people are seeing what they're doing, what we're doing. And then they're like, we want to be a part of this. So like, what opportunities do we have? And we're like, oh, okay, cool. So we have an opportunity to expand in Lafayette. So we cover the entire greater Baton Rouge all the way. I guess I'd say all the way Tangipahoa, St. Tammany, all the way to Slidell.
Yeah.
Right. That's east. West, we go into West Baton Rouge. So we're in like Plaquemine, Port Allen, Bruley, that area. South, so all of East Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge, Livingston Parish. And then there's like this gap between really like, call it like Ascension. There's a gap. And then we cover basically from like Laplace all the way to the West Bank of New Orleans. So we cover all that. And again, if you ask me what the goals were today, and it's funny because like I had my journal and I love to go back and look at my journals to see what my goals were then. And I tell everybody it happens slowly and then it happens suddenly. So right now the goal is, we want to get better, more agents, more production, more agent production. Right, because I want my agents to make more money because that's what's really important to them. And then really for me, it's always been to get into the panhandle of Florida because I want to retire in 30A. So now it's just become like, how do we get further east? So that means past Christian Bay, St. Louis. That means Orange Beach, Fairhope, you know what I mean? Getting into, Pensacola and the panhandle of Florida into 30A. So now it's how do we expand east? And with our relationship with Zillow and some of our other vendors, we've done a really good job. So now they're giving us these opportunities in these other markets. So that's the new vision.
Cool.
How I get there, how long it takes, it doesn't matter. It's just incrementally we're working to get a little better.
I love hearing the transition because I think oftentimes from the outside people look in and they're like, look at that opportunity they got. And it's like, look at the opportunity that you've been cultivating.
Yes.
Right? Proving yourself in the territories that you exist in, and then confident enough to say, and this is where I want to go in the future, and how can we continue to collaborate?
Yeah,
People discount that open-ended footprint that you're laying down from day one that you do with confidence because you have a big vision.
And your company is only as large as your leader's vision.
Yeah.
And my vision is large.
Yeah.
And I try to cast the vision to everyone often so they can see not only where we've come from, but where we're going. And I think people want to be a part of something a lot bigger than just themselves. And that's what we're looking for.
And you want them to be aligned with where you're going too,
100%,
right?
yeah, of course.
Keep
But
telling them just in case they're like, nah, not about that.
And look, everybody knows that I want to get out to 30A. And everybody's like, I want to go with you. And I'm like, okay, come on,
Right.
let's go.
Make your plan.
That's right.
And but having that goal in mind and something else that people, in theory, it sounds great, but not everybody's willing to put in the energy and effort that it takes to get to that goal, right? And we talk about like you want to be the best title company, best media company, like that might be your goal and whatever that means.
Well,
But
so
we really want that.
Okay, but I love to talk about that because we can always say, what does that mean? And when people say the best, so I'm really big on specific, measurable, attainable, relevant
smart
timeline,
goals.
right? So it's got to be
Wait, what was that
incredibly
R again?
specific.
You said it right. Relevant, not
Yeah.
realistic. I can't.
Yeah, relevant. Well, but why is it relevant to you, right? But my point is like, what does that mean? So if I challenge people all the time. They're like, I want to be the best real estate agent in the world. What does that mean to you? So like, let's get really
That's just
clear
pretty
and really
subjective.
specific. On what that means. So the best media company, how many clients do we want? Which locations do we want to be in? How much revenue are we looking to drive? You know what I mean? What's our profitability that we're looking for? How do we go in like what's our goal from a like not charity, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Community aspect? Or like,
community or what's the other one? Why am I
Philanthropic?
Yes. Like, what's your goal there?
Sure.
And I think that's all awesome because, again, you can share that vision with people. That's where the challenge needs to be made is what is that?
For sure.
Specifically, what are we up to?
Yeah.
And look, I always think about you and me because of like our health and fitness journeys and our macronutrients and like tracking and measuring and things like that. Like, we know exactly how much protein, carbs, and fat, how much we need to move our body, how many steps, how many days a week are we doing weight training. And if you track and measure and you do all that, it's really takes a lot of discipline, but it's really simple.
Well, and I to kind of the goal setting conversation where I really got a lot of clarity around that, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, is that the Millionaire Real Estate Agent really broke it down for me, right? And like that book is written for real estate professionals, but if you take real estate agent out and plug any business in there that has a business generating activity, it really applies to anything. and you take the big goal of the annual revenue you want to make, how much you're making per transaction, how many leads is it going to take for you to get to your ultimate goal, how many conversations does it take to get to that one lead.
Correct.
You do the math problem and you just say, okay, I don't need to worry about the end goal. I need to worry about how many conversations I need to have every single day. And if you do that, then you will get to your goal. And it applies to anything. It applies to health and fitness, like you said, right?
Focus on your activity.
Yeah, you just focus on what you can control every single day. And if you get to the end of the year and that activity doesn't get to the goal, then you have to recalibrate the activity you did or how well you're doing it. Not necessarily.
And don't wait to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Be tracking it so that you can pivot and make adjustments
All
as
right,
needed.
so what you said, I'm gonna take what you just said to the next level. The best book I've ever read to this day for goal planning is called The 12-Week Year.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a good one.
By Brian Moran, right? And in that book, right, they talk most importantly about, you have to lead. Number one, your vision has to be clear.
Yeah.
You have what they call aspirational vision, and I tell my agents all the time, or anybody I coach or I talk to is like, look, I want you to go to a place where you feel inspired. Where do you feel inspired? I could go sit in a coffee shop, put my headphones on, listen to some some Kygo radio on Spotify or something like that, and get in flow state. And what happens is I start to allow myself unfiltered, like anything in this world that I think I might want. And lately I've been using this ridiculous, seems like an impossible goal. It's really not that important to me, but it sounds fun. But what if I owned a plane?
Yeah. I said that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are now we're starting to get into some wild stuff. So I'm a pretty simplistic guy, right? I don't need a whole lot of things in my life. For me, success, do what I want when I want with who I want with whom I want, right? That's really important for me.
Yeah.
But the 12-week year and what it talks about is leading and lagging indicators. And your goal is always your lagging indicator. And you set it. Right? When your goal and you're 12 months out and you don't do the activities that you're supposed to do in December, because let's talk, if you're in real estate, everything you do in December is going to help you be successful in January. So if you didn't put anything under contract in December, you're not going to close anything in January. So what happens is you get a couple months behind, but you've got this 8 or 9 month runway, right? Which you feel like you got a lot of time, but in reality, you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I love the 12-week year or quarterly goals. So what you do is you can get really intentional that you've got to do these activities, and here's the goal at the end of the 12 weeks. At the end of the 12 weeks, you stop, you celebrate, you take a little bit of time off, you recalibrate, and then you start over again.
And
So
it allows you to incorporate that other concept that we heard of. They had that podcast, The Next One Thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you
The
can have
one-
a
oh,
big
yeah.
goal and you have multiple things that you need to do, and that overwhelms people. But you can be like, what's the next step I need to take now that
Yep.
then allows me to take step 2, step 3, step 4? And that's how you need to treat those quarterly goals. Not at random.
not at random.
Not at random.
But the most important thing, and this is where most people get it wrong, is you're 42% more likely to achieve a goal if you just write it down.
Yeah. 100%. And
And then
And
if you add accountability behind
Yeah.
it, it becomes 70+%. So just those two things.
Yep.
Write it down, tell people about it, and then have an accountability partner. So I am bullish on the 4 disciplines of execution. If literally everybody wanted to stop listening to this podcast right now, we don't recommend or suggest that. However,
Listen to them all.
this will
Forever.
be your nugget of nuggets, right? So number one, you're in your wildly important goal and the 4 disciplines of execution. So what is the most important thing for you to be doing? Number 2 is act on the lead measures. What are the things that are going to drive you to the lagging goal? So for us in real estate, it's, we don't track conversations. I track appointments met. We track appointments set. But the most important indicator in my business is to meet with a buyer or seller. Okay, but if I just focused on conversations, I would just go out there and have unintentional conversations with people and think that was moving the
Busy
needle.
work.
Well, but it's different for you than it is for me in my business. So I get, for sure. As a buyer and a seller who's a consumer who's
That's
buying
right.
one property every 7 years, you have to be a little bit more intentional and direct.
That's correct.
I can miss on the first 10 deals from a realtor and build the relationship
course.
and then be in the right place at the right time. You got to make sure you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, so all of our KPIs in every industry will be slightly different. But we all have to take intentional action towards whatever the goal is. So create the wildly important goal, act on the lead measures. My favorite, create the compelling scoreboard.
Gotcha.
Am I winning? Am I losing?
Gotta
What are my
track it.
conversion rates, right? So if I know we set as a team, I want to say we're somewhere around 65 to 68% appointments set to met, And then when we meet somebody, we're somewhere between 68 and 70% met to signed.
Nice.
And then signed to under contract is like this really lagging indicator, because you might work with someone for 3 months to a year before they finally put something under contract. And the goal is when it's under contract, we want to be closing those between 85 and 90%. So we give ourselves about a 10% to 15% fallout, inspections, you know what I mean, financing, things like that. So I just try to follow. Again, I'm not some crazy complexity type of person. I'm from Livingston Parish. I don't tell a lot of people that.
So
right?
amazing. Down to earth, you know?
No, I'd say
down to
you know,
earth.
I have a loving partner
yes.
from Livingston.
Okay, right on. That's amazing.
Shout out Becky.
You know Becky. So I'm going to add something to that. And there's a book called The Science of Scaling by Dan.
Okay,
What do you think about
that? My 10X is easier than 2X, and Science of Scaling are probably my two favorite.
Science of scaling is I mean,
saw it
I was
on
arguing
John's
in my
desk.
head
I
the
wanna
last
read
day.
it.
Is it top 3 or top 5? Like it's up
Yes.
there.
I gave it to I gave it to John, Lauren,
Dan
and Becky.
Sullivan
I know
and
Lauren.
Benjamin Hardy.
Yeah,
I'd already read it, yeah.
Lauren's already reading it. I read. I listened. I started driving to Alexandria and back, and one day I listened to the whole thing. It's incredible. But the one thing that I took out of that I think the 12-week year does is that it uses time as a tool.
Does.
You compress the amount of time in which you want to get your goal accomplished. And then if you're going to compress the time to almost make the goal seem like it's impossible, you have to focus on only the things that are important to accomplishing the goal. Everything below your floor is no longer important. If you do those things below your floor, you're distracting yourself from the goal. You're not going to have time to accomplish it.
But I want to talk about like how they present time as a tool, because of course you can have smart goal setting and have a time constraint to it. But that's not what this book means. This book means the first time that you set a goal, look at it and say, okay, well, if I can accomplish this in this amount of time, why can't I do it faster? Challenge yourself on how quickly you can get it done, right? So if your annual goal is we're going to get to X, then challenge yourself. Can we do it in 6 months? Can we do it in 3? And then that's when you start really implementing those 12-week years, right? Because you can compress that amount of time. It's not just saying put a time constraint on the goal that you want.
Yeah.
Well, so
it's
this
challenging
is-
yourself on
so-
how quickly you can do
Yeah,
it.
so Science of Scaling came after 10X is easier than 2X. And I think during the time that he wrote this, and this is Dan Sullivan's from Strategic Coaching, these are all his like methodologies, right? Yep. And what he says in the book, 10X is easier than 2X, and what I love about it is like we could all 2X our business if we just moved a few knobs in our business, right? I could go hire a couple more agents. I could raise my average sales price. We could charge a little bit more on our commission. We double our business, no problem. But in order to 10X my business, I got to take my current business plan, rip it up into pieces, throw it in the garbage can, and I have to really now look, all right, if I were to 10X my business, what drastically has to change? And then again, we know this, you guys know this, 20% of your outcome is going to give you 80% of your results. So what they talk about in the book, 10X is easier than 2X, is he's talking about, number one, you have to get rid of the 80% and only focus on the 20%. And then he talks about your unique ability and living inside of your unique ability. So those are, it gets challenging to really like narrow down like, what is my, because like me, I'm the CEO, I'm the top producer, I am recruiting. So like, for me, what's the highest and best use of my time? Believe it or not, selling real estate is still, because I've now put myself into a significantly higher price point.
But I love that you're able to identify it. Like, I think that's what everybody's challenge is. Jared and I had this conversation today. You can convince yourself you're good at multiple things.
Right.
What the hell do you want to be doing, and what are you best positioned, born to do sustainably over time that helps our business get to what we're trying to build, right? And in our situation, it's even more complicated because we have partners and we have 9 entities right now, and we have vision for more, right? And so, but also less complicated, because most of the time when you're going to 10X, you have to throw something away. Like you said,
do.
rip it up and throw it away. We
Prune.
don't. We could be like, you 10X this, you 10X that, and I'm 10Xing this. Like, that's the beauty of having capable partners,
Yes.
right? And being diversified, but it's getting everybody there.
So it's so I tell people all the time, I ask them, I said, what gives you energy? Like, tell me what gives you energy, and then what pulls and sucks energy away from you. So my operations director is the most amazing operations director in the world. He loves to build things. He loves to be on the behind the scenes guy. He's a little bit more introverted. Me, I want to be front and center out the most extroverted person, meeting everybody in the room. The moment you put me behind a computer and ask me to build something, paralysis sets in and I just freeze up and nothing happens. I know that about me. So what did I do? I went and hired the person that was completely opposite of me, but is incredibly amazing at the things that I'm not at. So I call him. He lives in his genius zone. I live in my genius zone. Together, we have literally built the #1 real estate team in Louisiana, and it's only scaling from here. And I do what you do. I go and find incredibly talented people who are great. Tyler, my marketing director, unbelievable, right? I know, Michael Smith, our ISA, unbelievable. I just go do that. The one thing, we talked about that, right?
Yep.
If you just focus on your one thing.
Do your one thing,
Yeah.
so I can do my one thing,
That's right.
and we'll all get to that big thing.
That's right. now at some
goals.
point, we did talk about setting goals, so I know we've gone all over the
Tell us
place.
about setting goals. I mean, about goals in general are fun, but talk about actually sitting down and setting a goal.
And we have to end somehow with these 5 emotional cycles of change.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
right on. So I love those. So no, I think the most important thing, right, is always going to be the vision. The vision, and you have to get super clear on your vision. So without a compelling why, right, on the days you don't feel motivated to do things, what is going to keep you going? So it all starts with the why. But I also think it starts with the belief. I think the belief in yourself is the foundation. I feel like a lot of people don't believe in themselves, and I think they really struggle. So I would ask that person, how do we increase the belief? And Gary Keller said this. He said, learning plus knowledge plus confidence equals motivation. So number one, you have to learn it.
Competence is what he's getting you
Yeah. Yeah. In order to have the confidence,
be confident.
when you're confident in something, you're motivated to take action upon it. Yes or yes. So the first thing is if you don't know something, if you don't know anything about anything, you got to go and learn it. And then when you learn it and you understand it, now you have the knowledge. Now I have the knowledge. I want to go tell other people about it. What that creates is confidence. Now that I have the confidence, I want to go and take action upon the thing. So it's just like that's a really simple formula, right? Learning plus knowledge plus confidence equals motivation. Yeah. So we all start with, right, the vision, the belief. And then once you have the vision and the belief, it just becomes, right, reverse engineering. So we said it before, depending on what it is. And I love to use, if we can use health and fitness, because maybe not everybody is going to have the same goal. Like we have KPIs and they hear the word KPI and all of a sudden their brains start to melt. You know what I mean? Like, okay, but let's talk about if people want to be, they want to lose weight or they want to have better fitness. And I believe in the compound effect more than anything in the world. And
100%.
the book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, is my favorite business book that was ever written because it is very simple. And if you haven't read The Slight Edge is basically the same book as Compound Effect, but it has probably a little bit more depth to it, right, than that.
I've never read that one, but
Oh
the
my
compound
goodness.
effect is 100%.
So, okay, Slight Edge, unbelievable. But he tells some stories in there. I'm not going to, we'd be here all day if we told stories. But the compound effect, so and I know you went through like a big transformation here lately. I went through, in 2015, I decided, and I felt like it was impossible at the time. So let me say this. Like I always looked at these guys who got on stage and were bodybuilders, and I said, that's impossible. By the way, I can tell you guys about possible, probable. There's 3 of those. It's another one. It's changing your mindset. But I said it's impossible to get on stage. So I had to learn everything I could about nutrition, right? So I had to pack on some pounds. All right, well, this is how much you weigh, 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per lean body weight. This is your amount of carbohydrates you should get in. By the way, not all carbohydrates are created equal. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then here's your fat intake. And it's like tracking and measuring every piece of food that you put in your body. And I did that for 16 weeks. No alcohol. I was doing fasted cardio every day, and I was weight training every night. And what happened during that time, I think I developed this level of discipline and this mindset of nothing is impossible, right? All it takes is for one person to do something. And then now the belief is, if he can do it or she can do it,
I can do it. Yeah.
I can do it. So if that's somebody's goal, they need to figure out, like, how much weight do you want to lose? What's your current weight? What's your baseline, calories that you need to just stay in maintenance phase? What type of calorie deficit do you need to be in to lose weight? How many steps do you need to do a day? And track and measure that. But don't quit when you don't see the results after the first 2 weeks, because you won't. So do you have the discipline to keep going.
Yeah.
Same thing in business.
Same thing in business. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's easy or simple, but it's not easy. Easy, not simple, whatever.
Simple and not easy. People ask me all the time, like, how did you do it? I'm like, I don't even want to start talking about.
Right.
Because it's like, what I'm going to say is so simple.
Simple.
But like it's hard. And I have a hard time because I'll start talking about it, and as soon as I'll start talking about it, their eyes just glaze over, and I'm like, and it's like I've done it so many times at this point. Like, how'd you lose the weight? I'm standing outside of church. How'd you lose the weight? I literally hesitate. I'm like, do you really want to know? Because it's just breaking down the numbers. And
It is, and
simple.
I forgot to mention the most important part of all this, which is the fourth, the discipline of execution, which is a cadence of accountability. And I just realized that because you can do what you want, like you can say this is what I want to do, but who's holding you accountable to that?
Me.
Okay, that's good because most people don't have the discipline. to hold
When it's
themselves
something that
accountable.
you want to do, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, like I talk to my husband Jason like that all the time, right? His is
Yeah.
his physical discipline. He's run
Yeah.
every single day, streaking
For like
every single day for over
8,000
9 years.
Yeah.
Right? Does not miss a mile a day. Apply that to every aspect of your life, right? Because you can.
You can,
And you prove to yourself with those little wins, but it's still a choice.
choice.
And you sometimes have to have people call you out.
Mm-hmm.
People that love you call you out. I'd love to call him out.
You should. Well, that's real friendship and
Yeah.
real
It is.
love
Well,
is when you can.
I think part of it too, though, is like some people will put goals on themselves because they see other people setting goals that they think they need to do or they need to have, and they don't necessarily. It's not truly what they want,
Right.
or they don't want what it's going to take to get there, and they might think that they want that idea, but then they really don't want the life that it takes to get to that place.
Does it sound crazy to say that some people are afraid to know what they want?
Well,
Because it's
To
true.
not want to do the work because they know it takes a lot of work. Is that
Not
what
want
you
to do the work, afraid that it's different than what they've invested in, and the change that it requires, and the discipline that it's going to require.
Can't
You know,
imagine
they're afraid to say it out
feel
loud.
that.
I encounter it every single day. Right? You have to build that vision for them, which is proving that it's possible. Right? Show them something outside of their box that they haven't seen before. That there's something greater than what they're stuck in today.
Or being
100%.
afraid of your goal too should also be somewhat there too, right?
For certain
be like,
personality
whoa.
types, it's good, but for
Yeah.
others,
Yeah.
it's limiting.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm think more of the. I think more people are afraid of what it takes to get to the goal, more than they're afraid of what the goal gets you. Because the nutrition stuff, like the fitness, and like you might want that, but you don't really want what it takes to get there. Because what it takes to get there is sacrifice and effort and discipline and consistency. That like it's not what you might think is fun. That's a non-negotiable. It's just like not even a part of my mindset.
I think the
anymore.
biggest thing is sacrifice.
yeah,
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Because the
100%.
sacrifice is the thing is like I'm not going to. Again, I'm just using this because it's an example because it's right outside. But I'm not going to the Rusty Pelican for lunch.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
R.I.P.
unfortunately get to go and have beers or whatever with
Yeah.
my buddies after work
100%.
today because it's not in alignment with my goals.
100%.
So you have to remove yourself. So typically, right, I tell people all the time, right, if you want to change, you inevitably have to change your entire environment.
Sure.
Right? And it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But it's the biggest thing is the sacrifice. Discipline's for sure, but sacrificing, and you have to ask yourself, am I willing not to go sit at the bar and have drink, or do I have the discipline to have a water
and
over
and
a cocktail?
The sacrifice of what it tastes like, and also and again, nutrition's the easy thing for me because I'm a part doing it right now.
I think everybody can identify.
Yeah,
with
yeah, but like the amount of discipline, and I think a lot of
Currently
people.
don't identify with that.
Well, a lot of people they like. I feel like a lot of people who are healthy, they'll be like 75, 80, 90% of the way there, and they have this like the level of where they want to be, and it's like working 100% of what the capacity that it takes to get there, and that 10%, 15% gap is really what the hard sacrifice. All the real sacrifice comes in that. It's I can do it 5 days a week, or I can do it 6 days a week, but that one night a week that I'm going to go and sacrifice it, or I'm not going to sleep, and all that stuff that kind of plays into it. They don't want to give up that part of it, and you almost have to you sacrifice a lot of things that you might not realize when it comes to like some people don't feel comfortable being around you if you're sacrificing to that level. But it's not only about nutrition, it's about business too. Like you want to be the number one real estate broker in the state. Do you really want that energy and that effort, that smoke? Because that is a totally different level of dedication and constant refinement of your business and being uncomfortable all the time in order to get that.
Yeah,
Do you really want to be the best title company or the best media company? Or the face of that? Like my favorite thing nowadays is I want to be the face of this. You have no idea what it takes to be the face
Okay.
of something.
Cool.
You have no idea what it takes. The sacrifice and the discipline and the dedication and the intentionality and the energy that it takes to be the face of something anywhere. Like that's
Yeah,
the
so I
schedule.
guess I don't ever look at like being the best at anything specifically because like I think I say this is one of my favorite quotes: "Comparison is the thief of joy." Sure. And again,
use it
try
a
not to
lot.
compare myself to anyone. But going back to, I want to share two things. My favorite quote is Nick Saban said this. I've said this on this podcast before. But there's two types of pains in life. There's a pain of discipline and there's a pain of disappointment. If you can fight through the pain of discipline, you will never experience disappointment.
Yeah.
And I want to add one thing that I think is really important. When a lot of people, so we live in South Louisiana, so this may not apply to many people, but you have to physically get yourself out of this place and experience other things and be exposed to other things to really, I think, to really have a bigger vision. Like I'm going to Europe. I'm going to Italy next Friday for 2 weeks. Never been. Okay. I went on the same vacation my entire life. My parents took me to Destin, Florida, like probably most people's family. Right. And that was what I was exposed to. So I always said I wanted to buy a place in Destin. And still to this day, like my wife just keeps moving the goalpost further, right? So now it's like Kaya Beach. Before it was like, Gulfront condo in Destin. Now it's house in 30A.
Yeah.
So the goalpost just keeps moving further back, which is fine. Which just means my goals and my ambitions just keep getting larger.
You better be thanking her. You better
No,
be thanking her for those big goals.
100%, and
right.
I am thanking her. But it wasn't until I was in my late 20s, early 30s that I went skiing in Lake Tahoe, and then I went skiing in Vail, and then my wife and I got married in Napa, and I started to go to all these other places and experience these things. That is when my vision and my ambition was always big, but you start to experience and get exposed to certain things. I think that's where people need to start. So if they're finding a hard time getting inspired, go travel.
100%.
It's literally
Get out of Covington, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. Go to the West Coast. Go to the East Coast. I mean, I've pretty much been most places. We went to Montana with a friend of mine who's a big-time author and keynote speaker, Alan Stein, a couple years ago. And, I've been to places and done things that, I'm really, sometimes I have to pinch myself and, am I really doing this? Am I really here? Do I really have relationships with these people? But I think that's what it's really all about.
You don't realize how much more of an impact you can make until you go do that.
Yeah.
My experience was going to Movement Mortgage's headquarters in North Carolina and spending time at that place.
Yeah.
That place is incredible. Knowing that they give 49% of all their profit to a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And they operate off of what's left, and they have a giant facility with gyms and all these people and staff, and they're giving all this away. And you realize when you go visit places like that, the amount of impact that you can have if you create a bigger vision for yourself. Yep. I totally 100%.
We don't talk about that enough. A lot of people talk about goal planning and things like that. But what I try to talk to my guys about is really exposure.
Yep.
Go out there and experience some things. Go see some stuff. Go challenge yourself. And I'm telling you, you will come back with a completely different perspective on life.
I was really blessed at a very young age in my career to join a company that ended up being a global company, and I helped lead them through that and travel to the other countries and set up the businesses there with the accountants and the attorneys and the consultants that we had working in those countries. And similar to you, I had business owner parents that had this wonderful footprint and impact on the community, which is still very important to me. But it became my mission because I did that out of Slidell, Louisiana. This business is still headquartered in Slidell, still one of our clients. And I wanted people to understand what's possible because they're also very closely held people. So everybody living in the community didn't even really know that it existed until we were employing 70-something people, right, in the community. And that impact and that difference of noticing what a small business is what, just a very tiny business in comparison to what's out there impacting the world and the global economy at that level or scale. And so truly understanding that you can do that at the state level, you can do that at the parish level, then can you do that nationwide? Can you make an impact globally? I still have connections and friends on LinkedIn that we're chatting with of just what's up? Because 10 years ago, I was, sitting in their office in another country. So it's cool to have perspectives with people, understanding how their goals are different and understanding how those communities were different, right? And it became a mission to say, let's really talk about what's possible. And so when we created Arena, it was easy for us to be our purpose is to positively impact the local economy because not everybody is going to get that opportunity. It's easy to say that's what you need to do, but the discipline to reinvest in that, or as a child, you know, what children are getting that opportunity. My kids are going to have that opportunity because I'm making a point of it. We just took them to Paris,
Yeah, right.
you know, for the first time. They're 9 and 13 years old. And I'm like, these are the things that I want you to do. And like, we packed lunches for homeless people there. We went and saw the touristy stuff, but they saw life there. They saw a difference. They talked to business owners there. Like, it's important that we make it our job to help expand the minds of the people that don't
Yes.
have that opportunity as well.
100%. And the fact that you expose your kids to that, again, my 16-year-old and 10-year-old are about to go to Italy.
Right.
You know, I went to Destin,
Right.
you know.
If we were lucky, I don't even know if I was going to Destin then. I might have been in
My
Gulf
daddy
Shores,
just
baby,
took me
back
on a
then.
hike in Colorado. That was our vacation.
I used to always joke. I still joke. My little brothers are my youngest brother 10 years younger than me. So when I was growing up, we did all the baseball traveling, and we went with we did Gulf Shores.
Yeah.
Right now, my brother, my dad and mom at a retiring age, and
Yeah.
my youngest brother, gets to travel with them to go to Italy and go to the whiskey tasting in Tennessee. And also, I'm like, I don't know who got the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Like, I got to enjoy Disney World, but you get to go like tour the world and go do all this stuff. So, you know, and he has a perspective different than I did for sure. And I'm like you, except I stopped at Gulf Shores, so I didn't quite get to 30A as a kid in Destin, but.
Yeah, so for me, my kiddos, man, I mean, that's probably the largest why for me, and just to you know, expose them to things that I wasn't exposed to. So hopefully when they get to be my age or even younger, that they can have that same impact, and their goal is to expose, you know, their friends and their kids, and like, this is what my parents did for us. You know what I mean?
But that's legacy. I mean, I think
That's
the
legacy,
ultimate
right,
goal
yeah.
is legacy.
Yeah.
Like, you have the 30A at the house. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's awesome. When you die, it ain't coming with you.
No, it's not coming.
So
with me.
your legacy has to be beyond you, and I think your kids and what you leave positively, that's the goal,
100%.
you know, at the end of it.
Yeah, and I always say this about like my dad was given a head start by his parents, and the head start that he got was school bus driver, daycare owner. He turned that into medical school, running a very successful medical business, and like that's his legacy and his head start, or his experience and perspective that he had. And now my responsibility to take the head start that he's given me,
Yep.
and then take it to the next thing. That's how you carry the legacy forward, right? From one generation to the next. But we've got to take pride in exposing our children to that kind of stuff, which is
100%.
if people want to talk about your why, like when it comes to the family, like the fun, like the why is not necessarily like this, like emotional, passionate, like why to like my kids to have something. It's like, I just have fun watching my kids experience life as they're experiencing it. You know what I mean? Like my 8-year-old, like walking into a room and like making an impact on somebody, and then remember, like, I know Lucy. Everybody knows who Lucy is. Like seeing that about her and developing.
Lucy Jared Miguez.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody remember Lucy Jared Miguez.
And that's the fun part to me, right? Like getting to go to these places in Paris and Italy, and like having your kids experience things for the first time.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
It's
that.
cool.
That kind of like that's the perspective that we give them, that we get to see unfold in front of us, that they don't even realize is happening until we're going to be in our 60s and 70s where our parents are at, looking back and saying like, yeah, I did give them a pretty good head start.
I also am going to beat them, though, and hopefully they have some struggle that gives them some character, because, man, they live a good life.
They do.
Yeah.
They do, and I think for younger people, it's probably really hard to have that, you know, that big why. When you know, for me, it was really easy. Like, I'll never forget. I mean, my wife, current wife, only wife, but
Shout out Whitney.
we got shout out Whitney. We got pregnant before we were married, right? And my back was against the corner, and like I didn't have any. I didn't. There was no other way. It was succeed or your family will suffer. You know what I mean? So like that was my why, and I grew up
I'm
probably
glad
a
you
lot
stepped up.
faster, right? Than I was. Yeah, and I mean, you know, when you're not, you know, you're younger. I mean, like I was in my, you know, mid 20s.
Yeah.
I was not the same person I am
For
in my,
sure.
you know, I'm 44 now. So I mean, like I don't want to say mid 40s, not quite there.
Somebody
yet.
else in their 40s.
right? But
Are you not gonna pick on him? Where y'all at now? Y'all always coming at me.
Yeah, so I think for a lot of people that's
You
the
look
hardest
like a
part. The
dad
hardest
for
part is
32.
really like what is the why, or what is the wildly important goal. So you got to really, again, you got to really search for that, and it's always the question of what's going to keep you going when things get hard. And the 5 cycles of emotional change, the 5 cycles of If you want to talk about that, I think this would give perspective for people to what it looks like. When they are goal planning, you want to chat about this?
Yeah.
Because I think this is when you understand this. I taught this, and I think when I started teaching it does one of 2 things. One thing is it makes you aware, which is a good thing, but then it also now that you're aware, you could almost sit in one of these for too long, if that makes sense, right? So when you think about goal planning, the most important and fun thing to do, and I use this example, like do any of y'all like buy lottery tickets?
No.
Okay, I don't buy lottery tickets either. However, who sees that the lottery's up to like 500 million, you start to think like, what if I played? What if I won? And you start thinking about like, how would you spend that money? You guys ever done that? Okay. That's what we like to call uninformed optimism. Okay, so uninformed optimism.
Jared, you have that.
Uninformed optimism in the goal planning phase is when you're thinking about all of the good things, but you're not thinking about any of the uncomfortable anxiety, stress, like hard stuff.
It's a good
right,
blindness.
that you're going to have to do. So you get excited, right? And then you start to go through that, and then you become into stage 2, which is called the informed pessimism. And informed pessimism, you're doing the activity. So like if you're in real estate, and I'll use that because that's what I know, and you're having conversations with people and you're cold calling or warm calling, and you're unfortunately just not really getting any traction. You start to, and again, we talked about this before, you have to trust the process, number one. And you can't abandon it when things aren't going your way. But what most people do is they get really discouraged and they don't have the patience to continue to move forward. So at this point, the next stage is what's called the valley of despair. Okay. So if you think about a J curve, yeah, you got it. You're in the valley of the J curve. And in the J curve, this is when everything that you've done, it just feels like nothing is working. You are ready to quit. Most people do quit here. You're literally throwing everything that you've done to this point, and you're convinced it doesn't work.
So what? Stay the charge.
Right. Okay, so when we get to the next one, it's called informed optimism. So once we come out of that J curve, which is basically what we talked about before, which is the compound effect. Okay, so and I tell people all the time, unless you can sit here and show me that you have done the activities for 90 consistent days, it's not, but you hadn't done enough.
Yeah. Right.
And then show me what you're doing. What's the score? What's it say?
Yeah.
Are we having enough conversation? So the problem is people are so impatient that they can't focus on the process, and all they're thinking about is the results.
Immediate gratification cycle that we live in. Yeah.
And look, Blake and I were talking earlier today, and he was very vulnerable and said this in front of the team, which I love because I wish more people would be vulnerable. But he's like, I have found myself, and he's like, about once a year, I find myself in the valley of despair. And I call Trey, and we have a conversation. And usually that's a moment of validation. Hey, where are you today versus where you were last year? And we talked about that today. He's already sold more in his listing inventory this year, I think, than he did all of last year, pretty darn close. And we're like halfway through the year. And I'm like, if you continue on this pace, and it's like, is your business growing year over year? It should. And if it's not, what did we do differently, or what are we not doing that we should be doing? And they all have more gas in the tank. And I think if everybody did all of the things that they knew they should be doing, we would surprise ourselves
For sure.
with the amount of success we have, which leads you to the next phase. So once you get in informed optimism and you keep this up, you're in success and fulfillment. And this cycle will happen over and over and over
all
again.
time.
And
Forever.
I'd like that too. It's called success and fulfillment, but it's not a point that you achieve. Like the continuous cycle, like you have to remember that sometimes that fulfillment stage, you're still working towards your goal. You're just fulfilled because you're staying the charge, you're confident in yourself, and you're watching the positive changes happen while they're changing. You're not yet to the ultimate goal, but you can keep going because you see the impact.
Well, let's talk about that. So there's a book, and it's called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with the book. But you have finite, right, which is a sporting event. There's a start, there's a finish, there's a winner, there's a loser. Well, then you have the infinite game, which is business. You have never arrived,
and you're not
right? Yeah. There may come a time when you retire, and you hopefully had experienced success and fulfillment. I think the biggest thing is
experience that while I'm working.
100%.
I don't want it to be while I'm retired. I don't know that I'll ever retire.
Well, right, because it becomes your identity, and I think that's what a lot of people. So, like, I had the amazing opportunity to sell Brian Kelly's house on the lakes at LSU a few months ago, and Coach Kelly and I have become very close, right? And through that, this guy gets paid. He's got a big buyout, right? He's got his money, all the money he needs in the world. But that's not who he is. His identity is he's a football coach. He's no longer coaching. There's only so much golf you can play. There's only so much that you can do before you need to get back to what your purpose and your identity is. And I think that's why ambitious people, it's Shahil Bloom. If you don't know who Shahil Bloom is, he's probably my favorite like current author, and he wrote the book, The 5 Stages of Wealth. And one of the things he put the other day was he's like, I'm convinced the biggest challenge for ambitious people is to just stop and relax.
Oh yeah.
And I find myself even on vacation,
Diddling.
like where I'm just like, yeah, like,
piddling around.
like, man, what are we doing? So I just like, Lauren, when you said that, like, I don't see myself ever retiring. I mean, somebody's
or
probably
perfecting
going to force
something.
me.
I'm so psychotic that like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get better at praying, and then I systematize
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good goal.
my silence. I do because if I can do that, then I'm doing it with purpose. If I have a purpose behind what I'm doing, you're not going to get in my way.
No.
So like if I know that silence is what I need to have clarity, to make decisions quickly, which is what the organization needs me to do, then I need times of silence, and it has a purpose. So yes, my relaxing might not look like yours, Wanda, but that's why I don't value your opinion as much. I don't have to cut you out of my life, but I'm not going to let you negatively impact what I'm working on, right? And my friends that accept that crazy about me, their fun may look different, but they respect what mine does.
Of course.
As well, 100%. Right? And when you do that, you can relax with purpose. I know that sounds crazy.
No, it's your type. Relaxing is subjective to who it is.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, the beauty of it, and I think like I always relax the most when I'm with my family because they let me relax in the way that I want to relax. So there's no other expectation.
Relaxing is
it.
running.
Yeah,
a lot of running for me.
Yeah,
but it's like that's where
Okay, Jason.
I get there and I'm like
freaking.
It's the most relaxing thing I think I do.
Not
to be honest,
Gym is pretty relaxing.
Yeah,
I want to put the most weight on the bar and lift it up as many times.
Right.
But that's relaxing. That's a release. That's like
when I get to the zone and it's honestly when I take my headphones out and I'm not listening to music is whenever that when I really can like let my brain isn't done. So this is a great conversation. I think there's the conversation about goal setting where it's like the technical number side of it, but there is also the part of it that we're talking about is like how do you set relevant goals for where you want to be that are Trey's goals and Jonah's goals and Lauren's goals and Jared's goals. And as a solo business owner, it's good because you can set your goals and set the pace for your organization. As partners, you have to set goals in alignment with your partners, but it's all part of understanding where you're all trying to go. And all the books you've talked about that we've all talked about are all very helpful. And you've got to, if you can't go and visit these places we talked about, read about them and read about the people who wrote the books because it's how you can really get a different perspective on things. So goal setting, this is the first of the 3 conversations we have about goal setting, and it's going to be a high bar to meet because my boy Trey over here, you always bring the punch, buddy. So I appreciate you.
I could talk about this stuff all day. Y'all got to shut me down.
We'll bring you back.
Literally, I had to show you down.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, guys.